No. Do you know much about sort of Conor McGregor's training? Because I know he was doing some like weird movements across the floor, and
Yeah.
I can't really put my finger on like what techniques it's called or what style it's called. But he does all this weird body movements, and I
I,
don't kind of get the thought process behind that too much.
so his guy that he works with is Ido Portel. I think I'm saying his name right, but he's a movement specialist. The main thing is like he's just trying to basically um, move his body in different patterns to help him carry over into the cage. Obviously, it's working for him. You know, he's successful,
Mm.
but there's other modalities, especially in MMA. There's other aerobic systems that he needs to work other than just doing one absolute. It's just like for him, if you want to go from a sport specific perspective, it's just like him just training kickboxing or just training Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
Yeah.
You have to put all of it together because it's a mixed aerobic system sport. You doing movement patterns is cool and all, no doubt, but you have to put everything into play. And we kind of seen that when he fought Nate. You know, I think that
He was gassing.
was yeah, well, it wasn't I don't think it was a factor of his aerobic capacity. I think that he just never really felt that lactic buildup
Mm.
like he did in that fight. And then once he got hit, once you get hit on the chin, your oxygen tank goes. And if you keep getting hit, trust me, I've been there. Your conditioning is gone to shit.
Mm.
So basically seen that, and at that time you're kind of drowning. You know, it feels like you're drowning in water, to be honest. And he was looking. I don't know if he was looking for a way out, but he found it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when I watched the first fight with Diaz, obviously I know he tapped out and that, but he just, even though he was throwing those shots and that, he looked good, but he did look like he was, puffing out a little bit because of the
Yeah.
grappling and stuff. The same with even in the second fight, obviously it was like fairly close. I know he won, but he looked like he was losing stuff from the tank. And I think in the third round, he was like Nate was pushing him up against the cage, and he was like kind of gassing a bit and running
Yeah.
around. And I think to myself, like, all the conditioning and training you're doing, you should you should be fine, because you've got like Diaz, who's just an absolute athlete.
So
Just
let's talk a little bit about that though. What
mm,
Nate does now, Nate does marathons. Like he does triathlons. He's outstanding in his aerobic capacity.
mm,
Outstanding. But he matches what he does from his strengths. I'm not a true believer in what Nate does to get ready from a physical preparation standpoint, because he doesn't put together all modalities or all aerobic systems together.
yeah,
But what he does do is that he fights to the way he trains. So he doesn't explode ever. If you ever see Nate, it's slow, methodical. He kind of just picks you apart, and
mm,
he stays one dimensional, or not one dimensional, but one speed the whole way through. And he, with accumulation, he ends up knocking guys out or just basically outworking them in the cage. Can that be the best way to do it? It depends on the person. It depends on muscle fiber type. It depends on a genetic makeup, and he
mm,
just has that capability. Him and his brother both have that capability. I think Connor's a little bit more fast twitch, slow twitch, medium dominant. So I mean, he has to work both sides of the fence on that one.
yeah.
I just ended up finishing working with Tyron Woodley.
I was going to
Totally,
mention him.
yeah, totally different, athletic background and totally different genetic makeup. The way we condition him is that you want to make sure that he's still doing his strengths, which is anaerobic, explosive power, right? Alactic, but also being able to recover within 10 to 15 seconds.
Yeah,
Because if he doesn't, then somebody's going to pressure him, and then he can lose, his speed there. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that he can still do his explosive movements, but he can maintain a good level of conditioning so he can manage the storm and then go explode again. So what basically what I would do is I would do a 10 to 12-second burst of energy, and then he would do something like we would drop that from, let's say he was at 100% on his max effort
yeah,
explosive move. We would drop that around 40%, and then he would coast for a little bit, maybe do a little shadow boxing, move around, get on his bike, and then he would explode again. And doing this over time under volume will actually help his situation. His situation is being explosive for a long period of time. That's where power endurance comes into play for somebody like him, for somebody like Hector Lombard, for somebody like a new guy, big heavyweight that I have. His name's Walt, but I mean Walt Harris, and he's same type of makeup, genetic makeup.
Yeah,
That's running with them. Somebody who,
I mean, Tyrone Woodley's like when he explodes, it's like a lion being let out of a cage about to just that hasn't been fed for like 6 days, just full on 100% power. And then you do notice it in his fights. Obviously, then he kind of coasts around a bit, and then suddenly snap, explosion again. And obviously, like the training that you said you've done with him is tailoring to his genetic build, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, like for instance, if I were to train him like a Nate Diaz, this would negatively affect his performance because we're going against his natural abilities. Why would I do that? I want to make sure that we're progressing in his natural ability and make sure that he's doing the things that he needs to do to withstand a fight, because that's just the way, that's how I was when I was fighting. That's obviously how he is, so as long as you have a good game plan from a specificity standpoint, from a skill standpoint in the fight itself, and Dean Thomas, like I said, does a great job with him, with his game plan. Duke Rufus, same. They understand his style, and they play to his style for his game plan. So it works out well.